Thank you, members. You're hereby summoned to attend the monthly meeting of Business and Culture Committee to be held as a hybrid meeting conducted remotely via WebEx and physically in the Council Chamber in Strabane. If I could take the roll call, please. Alderman Cook. Alderman Guy.
Here, Stephen.
Alderman Middleton.
Here online.
Councillor Barr. Councillor Duffy.
Shaw.
Councillor Farrell.
Online, Stephen.
Councillor Harkin. Councillor Hart.
And Shaw.
Councillor Hutton.
Shaw.
Councillor McDaid. Councillor McHugh.
Shaw.
Councillor Mooney.
Online, Stephen.
Councillor Farrell.
And Shaw.
And Councillor Neelis.
And Shaw.
Thank you, members.
Sorry, Stephen.
Okay.
It's Alderman Cook here. I am online. I couldn't get my mute button off.
Thank you.
Okay, members, moving on to the broadcasting statement. I would like to remind everyone physically present here at the meeting or in attendance remotely that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. This broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. Due to your attendance at this meeting, you are consenting to being filmed and to the use of storage of those images for broadcasting or training purposes and for the purposes of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. Members and approved speakers are reminded to only have their mics and cameras on while speaking at the meeting and to use the chat facility to highlight or request to speak. A copy of the full council privacy notice can be found on the website. We're moving on to chairperson's business. I don't have any, apart from my own thanking the council events team for all their work at the Christmas events, as well as other arts organisations who've been involved as well. The switch on the Christmas lights and so on, it's always a very enjoyable experience for all the children and the big children in our town. So thank the team for that. Moving on to the matters arising from the previous meeting, which was held on the 19th of November. Any matters arising? Councillor Barr.
Thank you, Chair. Item 188/24 Royal Mail deliveries. Referring to Councillor Harkin's comments regarding the priorities of parcels over mail and all the negative consequential issues which arose from this. Indeed, we discussed these issues at the November meeting. However, the situation in the Strabane office has deteriorated even more with what amounts to a ban on overtime, with posties being told they bring undelivered mail back as soon as they reach their cut-off point. I've been informed they're being instructed to leave mail behind in the sorting frames, and this has been borne out by photographs I've seen of frames full of mail after postmen and postwomen have gone out in delivery. But a more worrying aspect of this is one person I spoke to told me he had to leave because of bullying from senior management. The treatment and the working conditions these workers are enduring is causing posties to leave. It's affecting their mental health. And we have Royal Mail management lying to the public, lying to workers and lying to elected representatives. And I know Councillor Harkin proposed a meeting with Royal Mail management when we last discussed this issue. And I just feel that meeting needs to take place now, sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barr. Like every other elected representatives, I'm sure we've all been inundated over Christmas with the exact same issue with Royal Mail at the moment. I totally agree with your words there. And for if council officers can get back in contact with Royal Mail just about this meeting request, that would be very much appreciated. Moving on, matters arising. Anybody else want to come on that? Sorry. Yeah. Go ahead, Alderman Middleton.
Thanks, Chair, for letting me in. It's just on the same issue, given that this is affecting residents district-wide. I know some people whose post is running on average around 6 weeks late. someone today just got Christmas cards. I would really like to think that we could arrange a meeting as soon as possible. I would have hoped maybe there would have been one arranged by now. Perhaps if there's any update from officers, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alderman Middleton. Councillor Farrell.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Would just like to echo the remarks of the previous speakers. We in the SDLP have been engaging on a regular basis with the sorting office in Derry. The service that's being delivered is simply unacceptable. And I have experience of that myself. Only yesterday, there was a hospital appointment letter delivered to our house, and the appointment was yesterday. So this is widespread. It's happening right across the city and district, right across the community. There's important communication that is in the post that's being delayed, and it's simply unacceptable. So we should be engaging with senior representatives within Royal Mail, because the situation needs to improve immediately. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Farrell. Councillor Donnelly.
Good Chair, and thanks for letting me in. Not a member of this committee. But just the add to the previous voices there, that this does seem to be a very, very serious situation. You know, there's people waiting on, as Councillor Farrell pointed out, there's people waiting on test results, on appointments for operations, and the mail isn't being delivered. And this is deliberate, and there's a perception that Royal Mail are concentrating on packages. I don't know if that's because there's more profit or more lucrative, but whatever's going on here, but could potentially cost someone their life, you know, due to missing appointments and not getting the health service is run down at the minute, and it's difficult to be treated, you know, to get a satisfactory appointment. And if people are missing them because Royal Mail have a priority over packages, it's obscene. So just to add my voice to the previous ones. Thanks for letting us in, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly. Councillor Hutton.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, and it's just to reiterate the fact that we do need this meeting. There is a lot of backlog within Royal Mail, and they do seem to be prioritising the Track 24 parcels. Padraig Delargy MLA has been continually working with them, not just most recently, but in the last year. And he is also calling on them to try and alleviate the fact that people aren't getting their hospital letters, school reports, etc. And he's also contacting Western Trust just to see if there's anything they can do in the meantime to either ring or email patients in relation to appointments so that they're not missing them. So the backlog is worsening, so I think that the meeting should be top priority. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hutton. Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in, and thank you to Councillor Barr for raising this, because I think it's disgraceful that Royal Mail has been so slow to respond to the Council's request for a meeting. And I think that I'll be repeating what everybody else has said, but that the delay with letters, important letters for housing officers, for hospital appointments, benefit offers, benefit information is not acceptable. So we need to have a bit of accountability from Royal Mail management. There is a particular issue here in Derry and in our district, but this is it's not something that's limited to our council area. This seems to be the case right across the board wherever Royal Mail is operating. And people probably followed the planned sell-off of Royal Mail, and it's very rare that trade union will welcome a change in management and ownership structure, because it's usually seen as a threat to jobs and conditions. But it's been so bad at Royal Mail that the union has taken a positive attitude to the proposed and planned sell-off. So one thing I would like to add, I think we should also meet with the CWU the CWU have the exact same frustrations that we do as elected representatives. Indeed, their members, the people who actually deliver the mail, are on the cold face of this, and they talk to residents, obviously, on a regular basis about the situation. So I think we should meet with some of the local representatives of the CWU so we get their opinion on it as well. And I think that given that it's the postal workers that are actually dealing with this and dealing with the backlog and dealing with pressure that's coming on them that they can't actually resolve, I think we should also do that. So I would like to formally propose that in addition to seeking this meeting with Royal Mail management, that we also seek a meeting with the CWU local representatives. Thank you, Chair.
I second that, Chair.
Okay, proposal there from Councillor Harkin, seconded by Councillor Barr. Yeah, that I'll allow it on this instance because it is a grave issue, and it makes sense as well to bring representation from them also. So, Alderman Hussey.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Totally agree with CWU being invited to a meeting. And personally, I believe it should be the same meeting. They should be there in the room with Royal Mail to listen to what Royal Mail have to say and to counteract it, in fact, if needs be, because it's the workers on the ground who are taking the brunt of this. We know that it's not their fault, but they take the brunt of it. So I think they need to be, personally, I feel that they should be at the same meeting. But if that delays a meeting with Royal Mail, that shouldn't be the case either. So I'm not a member of a committee.
I don't know. I suppose we can make inquiries to see is it possible to bring the both together at the same meeting, but because of union stuff and maybe ongoing legal stuff that are on about sell-offs, that might even be possible. But I'm sure officers could make an inquiry and see if it is even possible. But my understanding would be that they possibly won't be able to happen. But Alderman Guy.
Thank you, Chair. In total agreement with all the previous speakers. This isn't the first year. It happened the same time last year. I obtained figures from the Western Trust. There was just under 4,500 missed appointments. That included people that didn't cancel and maybe cancelled on the day, finding out that basically they had just received notice of an appointment at that time. That was a lot higher than normal for normal 3 months around that time of year. Totally agree with what Councillor Hutton says there. I also have wrote to the Western Trust again to try and obtain figures for this year. But it's an ongoing problem. This has happened this is for the second year in a row. The last time it was management coming from other areas that sorted this issue out. There doesn't seem to be any sounding that that's going to happen this year. So it just continues and the cages continue to build up in the sorting office. So thanks, Chair.
Okay, folks, there's no more indicated speakers on that. Just on matters arising, is there any other topic on matters arising? No, that's fine. Moving on to matters arising for the meeting held on the 3rd of December. Anybody? No. Okay, moving on to item number 8 is the boundary signage design, and that is 18.
Yeah, so thank you, Chair. So members, this is a report to seek your approval to proceed with the implementation of boundary signage installation throughout the council area. Members, many of you may be aware that preliminary work and cost assessments for council's boundary signage were carried out in 2017, but the project was paused due to a signage moratorium. And Council are now seeking approval to progress with the installation of boundary signage at key entry points to the city and district. This would be similar to other boundary signage that you'd see throughout Northern Ireland on your way into other council areas, which had originally been the plan for this council area as well. The initiative aims to enhance the council's brand and serves as a functional and symbolic tool to represent the council area. So our council's capital team had completed preliminary work to identify the most appropriate locations. The next steps include undertaking an updated site audit of all the sites and obtaining all the required permissions to the installation. You'll see in the appendix set out the look and feel of the signs themselves. With, they're very durable. They'll be securely mounted on robust posts anchored into concrete foundations. The colour schemes and everything are in line with the council brand that by this stage you'll know well. It's compliant with our language policy that's been confirmed. There are 14 strategic locations that are set out in the report. Obviously, this project it's been overseen by the council's marketing team, and it will be delivered by a supplier to be appointed under the annual corporate signage tender. Now, clearly, planning permission will be required for these signs and will make its way through council in due course. The costs are not expected to exceed £40,000, and budget for these has been allowed for in council's repairs and renewals fund. And members, you're asked just to note the content of the report and the designs outlined and approve the progression of the boundary signage project. So thank you, and happy to take any questions, members.
Thank you very much, Aileen. At the moment, we have 2 indicated speakers. Councillor Hart. Yeah.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Aileen, for the report. And I'm happy to propose the progression of the project. The only thing from a personal perspective, prefer in Appendix A, the first alternative sign with the bigger writing, with a bit bigger welcome and Fáilte and fair fee. Did I pronounce that correctly? Not too sure, but I don't know what other council members feel in relation to the signage, but I think that's a kind of more prominent, the welcome's more prominent. So that's only my observation, and I'm keen to hear from others. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hart. Councillor Mooney.
Thanks very much, Chair. I suppose from our perspective, given the moratorium, it's probably overdue that we have this signage, given as Aileen has reflected on the fact that if you pass in the other council areas, you do see the signs, like going up the Glen Chain, you'll see Welcome to Mount Ulster, and up through Killen and places like that, you'll see the Fermanagh Tyrone signage, which we do welcome the signage coming in. And obviously it's good to see the progress in this as well. The artist impressions, or the impressions from the pack, were very good. Having the corporate logo on that signage, it looks well. Although Aileen did point out that there was sort of procedural issues in play going through the process. Would she have any indicative timescales as to when these signs could be properly implemented within the city and district? Thank you, Chair.
Well, yeah, thank you, members, for your comments. Happy to take the comments of Councillor Hart on board. And just in relation to Councillor Mooney, I suppose we're about to appoint a contractor. So, this obviously has to go through planning, but we would imagine it would be, a matter of sort of small weeks to a small number of months. So probably 2 to 3 months. But I'm loath to say that. These are good. We're going to get on with this as soon as we can. So just, bearing in mind the length of time that some of these take, but it hopefully won't be too long. But obviously we have to go through a couple of processes and procedures to get them actually up and installed.
Thank you. And finally, Alderman Guy.
Yeah, just happy enough with those designs. Happy enough with the first alternative design that Councillor Hart was mentioning there. With the bigger welcomes on it. Happy enough with
that. Councillor Q.
All right, Chair. Thank you, Chair, and thanks for the report. Just a comment in terms of the signage in the former Stabandis council area. It seems to me that the roads there are all roads that would have been historically, or signs would have been on those roads historically before border roads were reopened. I can think of a number of cross-border roads from Donegal and the Tyrone, and they're not included in this list. Probably should be. Thinking Castlefin Road, the cross border there with on the way to Castlefin. Cargray Road, which would take you into Donegal town, on the far side, the Tonlashane Road, the Lycar Road. So maybe I'll have a conversation with financial officers about it. But I just think, maybe that's something that we could be looked at, because to me, there's not enough signs there.
Yeah, happy to note that, and just to say that the appointed contractor will be reviewing the list that had been prepared prior to 2017. So, but also happy to, if you have any comments or suggestions for roads that do need to be covered, we're happy to look at those.
Okay, folks, that's everybody on 8. So number 9, the Halloween 2024-25. And that is Aidan.
So thank you, Chair. Members, this report is around about Halloween 2024 and 2025, and to give you an update on the outcomes of 24 and to give you some thoughts on planning and programme development for Halloween 2025. I'm not going to go through the report in detail, but obviously Halloween 2024 in the City and District was one of our best years yet. It ran from Friday the 25th until Thursday the 31st of October. It's estimated that 120,000 attended the city celebrations and 20,000 across Strabane, including the hay bale trail throughout the district. Derry Halloween 2024 included 3 nights of Awakening the Walled City. Full details of it are set out in the report, and the media results, including a 7 million AVE advertising value equivalent PR figure and an overall reach of 317 million. There's noted in the report some of the international media coverage that we saw from last Halloween, which many of you will be aware of. The primary focus for planning for this year's event is to extend and expand the Awakening the Walled City programme through a wider area of the city walls and within the city centre streets. As you know, Awakening the Walled City is a crowd-friendly circuit of the city that can accommodate considerable footfall and crowd management. I do know I am going to address some of the issues, because I am mindful that some of the detail that's set out in this report has generated some media coverage. So there are a couple of things just that I want to make clear in relation to the proposal for the Awakening the Walled City experience this year. We have a proposal, obviously, as members maybe are no doubt aware, and I know we have discussed with some of you already elements of this. We are talking about charging for a particular portion of the Awakening the Walled City experience, and that is a portion that is on the actual walls themselves. So, members, just to bring you back, you will be aware a number of years ago, in the early years of our Awakening the Walled City, we had the majority of our activity on the walls themselves. Now, it is a scheduled monument, and you will no doubt be aware of the practicalities of bringing the large numbers of visitors that we have onto the walls, to ensure that the monument itself is looked after and that it is an enjoyable experience for everybody involved. So our crowds a number of years ago got so big that we took the decision to come off the walls. We did put animation on the walls, but the idea was that you would be throughout the walled city and you would look at animation on the walls. The feedback was overwhelmingly that people wanted to get onto the walls themselves. So last year we did programme the walls, a portion of the walls on the western side, and many of you will be familiar with this. So, as you know, we had massive interest, huge crowds, so much so, I mean, we had crowds that lined right down Magazine Street. So we know that's not an ideal experience. It's not an ideal experience for anybody that comes. If you come with a small family, you do not want to be queuing halfway down Magazine Street, not to mention the fact that that is a difficult thing to manage. We are very keen, and we're absolutely adamant that Halloween is, the vast majority of it is free programming. It's a world-class international event. The performers, it celebrates absolutely everything that is best about the arts and culture sector in the Northwest. It showcases our history and our heritage, and we want to make sure that's maintained. So we have come up with a proposal primarily to manage crowds, to ensure that it is the experience, and I'm only talking about the experience on the walls themselves. That's only one element of the Awakening the Walled City experience, to make that safe and enjoyable. And that is to put a small charge in place so that we can manage the crowds and offset, I suppose, the costs involved in that. And ensuring that we still maintain the level of high quality free programming right throughout the Walled City experience. This is all subject to, so I suppose what we're asking you today, members, is for your permission to explore that in detail and to produce a detailed proposal for that. It is all subject to the agreement of our statutory partners, not least Historic Environment Division, who look after the walls. We've had preliminary discussions with them, and we're going to be continuing those over the next number of weeks. But this is, we've suggested a charge of £3 per person and £10 for family at a maximum. That will allow us to effectively to ticket the portion on the walls. So you will be able to book a time slot. So we'll know throughout each of the evenings of the Awakening the Walled City experience, you'll know how many people are likely to come on at a particular time. And you can manage crowds that way. We're only talking about one section of the walls, the rest, and we're talking primarily about charging for the animation for the experience. The majority of the money, we're not looking to make profit here. The majority of this will go to suppliers and to the performers and to the artists who provide the experience. So I suppose I'm mindful of some of the commentary that I have seen, and I just wanted to make sure that you're making we're able to have an informed discussion here today, and you're aware of exactly what we're talking about. We are not proposing charging for anything else. There are plenty of paid for events that many of our partners run. Indeed, we've run music events and all sorts of stuff that are paid ticket. But the vast majority of the programming throughout the Walled City experience and on Halloween night itself, throughout the entire Halloween festival, throughout the entire city and district, is free of charge and available. Our rationale for this is primarily to manage crowds. And I would say, irrespective of the charge, if we're going to continue to have activity on the walls, we're going to have some sort of ticketed crowd management structure there. So whether that's charged, how that's funded is a matter for discussion and for looking at proposals. But we really are, and anybody who, particularly anybody with small children who went to queue up to come onto the walls last year will know that's not an experience. We're clear that we're a world-class international event, that this is a showcase of everything that's great about our culture here and about the arts sector, and we want that experience to be good. So that's a wee bit of the rationale. Now, I'm happy to take any questions. There's obviously some other notes there around procurement set out in the report. The finances, it's obviously to note that we have an application going into Tourism Northern Ireland again for their international fund hopefully for the maximum of £100,000. That's been reduced over the last number of years. It's obviously to note the cost increases and for everything really, which we've been having discussions with you over the last couple of years. The budget for the event is set out in the report, and obviously there's some details there around the financing of the ticketed experience. And members, you're really asked to note the content of the report and to approve the programming and financial arrangements, and you're asked to approve to allow us to proceed with the development of a ticketing system for the Awakening the Walled City experience. That is, and it probably should be clear in the report that that's primarily the piece on the walls. So we're not proposing to ticket for anything bar that piece, probably from Stable Lane down to the bottom of Magazine Street. And that's the only piece that we're talking about ticketing. Everything else will still be largely as is. And I suppose I'm labouring the point because I have seen probably a misrepresentation maybe of the proposal in some of our esteemed colleagues in the media earlier today. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to make that clear. And I'm happy to take any questions. I know we have discussed it with some of you, but I'm happy to take any further questions on Halloween last year or this year. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Aileen, for the report and the points of clarity and rationale and stuff as well. I've also seen the stuff on social media and on, and sadly some misleading headlines and stuff too. So, what can be rather frustrating for yourselves as well, trying to do your job. So our first indicated speaker on this item is Councillor Neelis.
Alex. Aileen, thanks for that and thanks for clearing that up. I think it was important for that to be said. Listen, 120,000 visitors last year, really successful festival. So congratulations to all the team. It's a serious amount of work goes into that. And there's the success year in shows how important the festival is and how important it actually is to tease out revenue streams if we have 120,000 visitors coming into the city and district at that time. It's encouraging to see the council officers are working and exploring ways to enhance the experience and to enhance revenue for the council as a whole. However, at this point, Sinn Féin cannot accept this paper and would ask officers to come back with other options. In terms of the inequality impact, it says that there are no significant implications, but as a party, we can't agree with this, as affordability for everyone is different. So it's very hard to say that there is no equality impact happening. And like I said, we would just like to see other options coming back from the team and to widen the discussion in the future of how to bring in revenue from the festival.
Thank you, Councillor Neelis. Alderman Guy.
Thank you, Chair. Let's start off too by thanking the officers and the events team for another successful Halloween event just there last year. There was what was described to me and obviously online as well as chaos in Magazine Street when people prepared to get onto the walls, queuing and then having to queue because the events that were going on were taking a break in between and so on. We do have to look at ways of better handling that. It was good again to get back onto the walls. Issues of whether or not we can, charge people to get on. I think if you go away to any other major city in the world, they will gladly charge. And £10 is not a lot for a family access. Now, I would say, I don't know what way they feel about this, to be honest. I can't say. I'm sort of sitting on the fence about it at the minute, But £3 per person, £10 for 2 adults and 2 children. If it did go ahead, I would look to extend that to 2 adults and 3 children for the £10. Am I right in saying there's only 2 access point, disabled access point, which is at the Memorial Hall and Magazine Street and behind the Metro? And yeah, so it would be coming off at the Metro again there, I think. Would the length of Magazine Street on the walls, would it be, I'm saying, fenced off, but with more like a cover so that people can't see in? Because you could quite easily walk along Magazine Street and see what's on the section of the walls from St. Augustine's the whole way down and round. So charging at that, or charging for that section of walls, if you're not going to cover it, completely defeats the purpose of it. And questions why you want to charge for that. But then if you're not prepared to put up covers along that section, perhaps look at charging. I know I've heard people there saying today too, charging more for the actual units that come in there to Guildhall Square and so on, for the traders and stuff. I know they're charged a lot as it is. I know that the food trade seems to do well, more so than anybody else. I know that there's been problems this year with different parts of the town and traders and so on. It's mixed reviews too on social media. I see a lot of people complaining. They say that no, there's no way this can happen in the city. People can't be charged. But I also see in other threads young families actually saying they would quite happily pay the £10 if it cut out the chaos of last year, if it meant that they were able to walk along the walls and know that their kid wasn't going to get knocked over or bundled over because of access problems and crowd control problems. So I don't know what way to look at it. I know it's our decision here to make, but is there a case here that the actual council put out a survey in this? They actually asked for people's opinion. And we take that into consideration as well when we're making a decision in this. I don't think we're going to make a decision on it today. I know the parties are probably against it. I don't know. I don't know. As I say, I sit on the fence. And my biggest fear would be that sets a precedent, and then we start charging visitors just to walk a full circumference of the wall at all times of the year. And I know that's not down to council, but that's the way they would start looking at it. You know, the tourism and so on, like, you know, and that's my biggest fear, because I think it should be open to everyone. There's a lot of local people walk the walls every day. They take a dander around it. I don't think it should be charged. I think the wall should be enjoyed by all visitors coming. However, I do see why council needs to get some sort of feedback on the actual outlay that they're doing for this Halloween. And if the funding and all is getting less, it'll just get poorer and poorer, and then we will see less people coming to Cityford. So we have to think about our revenue. Whether this is the right way to do it or not, the jury's still out on it. That's my point. Thanks, Chair.
And thank you, Alderman Guy. Councillor Farrell.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thanks, Aideen, for the report. Just initially, I would want to say I put apologies for Councillor McDade in the chat box at the start of the meeting. I don't know if those have been noted, so if they could be, that'd be great. So in terms of Halloween, just want to give the SDLP sincere thanks and gratitude to the entire team in council and all our partners right across the community who made it a magnificent and fantastic event. In terms of this proposal to charge a fee to access certain elements of our Halloween festival, we don't support it. The beauty of our festival and events calendar, which is fantastic, is that it's free of charge, which ensures equality of access for everyone, regardless of their financial circumstances. We're very concerned at the prospect of having a two-tier system. You get a premium experience if you're willing to pay, and you get a not so premium experience if you can't afford to. And that's a major departure from where we are at the minute. And that's very, very concerning for us. So we can't support this proposal. We won't support this proposal. And we don't see any circumstances where our position on this would change, to be honest. That being said, we understand that more investment is needed for the marketing budget, for better standard of programming. And I've got a question around the current funding for Halloween. There's 335 grand that comes from rates. There's 25 grand that comes from the executive office. We've got an application lodged to Tourism NI. Hopefully that's successful. We're in difficulty if it's not. And there's mention there of £10,000 in other income. So in terms of that, if Aideen could detail what the other 10 grand is that street traders, etc. And what we haven't mentioned and what nobody has mentioned is the opportunity around Halloween and the potential for corporate sponsorship. It's the biggest Halloween festival in Europe. It's world renowned. It's growing in stature, and the success of that festival, we think that there would be businesses out there that would want to be associated with that. So that's a potential income stream. we get the health and safety concerns, we get the congestion that was readily apparent last year. I had my 8-year-old daughter up there on one of the nights, and we had the queue right beside the Maldron Hotel for 20 odd minutes, maybe half an hour, to get up to St. Augustine's to get onto the walls. That needs to be addressed. There's a particular bottleneck there. So in terms of improving access to the walls, to making it safer, having one access point is probably counterproductive. So are there any plans to increase the number of access points so we don't have this surge of people in one particular area in the city, which is leading to health and safety concerns? In terms of ticketing, we're not against the idea of ticketing. We're definitely against the idea of charging for ticketing. So I'm not sure if council can explore that. That potentially is another cost, a further cost, which would impact the current programming. And finally, it's not in the paper, but it's a number of people have said to me, particularly around the firework display last year at Halloween. There was certain areas along the quay devoted to people with mobility issues, wheelchair users, so they could have a safe place where they could clearly see the fireworks. And feedback I'm getting is that there wasn't enough space, which is a further health and safety concern. So in terms of that, have we any plans to address that? Has there been any feedback publicly, from people around concerns about provision for people with mobility issues? So that's our view on this. We don't support a charge to get on to any part of the walls for Halloween. We're open to the idea of ticketing to make it a more sort of streamlined, health and safety conscious experience. And the big one, the opportunity around corporate sponsorship, we think it's massive. We're sure that there's companies out there that want to be associated with this fantastic event. And that would mean that there would be no burden on the rates, no extra burden on people who want to enjoy the Halloween festival free of charge. So some feedback on that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Farrell. Just cautious, we have a few speakers on this. If we can keep our, I know everybody has a lot to say on this. It is very important, but we just keep it brief, please. That was very too long. Wanted opinions there, but are very important and equally important. But we want to keep it brief. All right. Next, we have Alderman Middleton.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in, and thank you, Aideen and team, for your report, and also just the time you put in and year out planning events district-wide. I would like to preface what I'm saying by stating that due to my personal convictions, I do not celebrate Halloween. However, many of the constituents I represent do, and I'm speaking on behalf of the many of those that I have engaged with on this issue today. There are very mixed views on the proposed fee introduction. However, many young families have stated that broadly they are in favour if it meant that they could actually access the walls portion of the event without queuing for extortionately long periods of time. They would, however, like to see a time slot option made available for this reason if this were to go ahead. There are many who have reservations about paying for something this year that has been free every other year. Therefore, they have asked, and quite rightly so, what's going to be different this year, what's going to be better, and what makes a financial contribution worth it. Those who travel from the rural areas which I represent do not see many, if any at all, free events in their areas. Halloween, should they choose to participate, is one of the only free events that rural dwellers of all ages can avail of. With the cost of fuel and parking and sometimes food, an added charge to walk on the historic walls, which I don't think we should be charging people to get onto, is something which seems unfair. Others who are generally in favour but hold reservations include those using wheelchairs or those with sensory processing difficulties and those with additional needs. Therefore, it must be asked, how many people do we envision being let in per slot if this were to go ahead? And how would we potentially crowd manage to meet people's expectations should they have paid? Another question raised has been, will considerations for inclusivity be put in place should a pay system go ahead? And actually, even if there isn't a paid system in place, we should be considering it. So could we consider a quiet hour or better access for those using wheelchairs or even those with pushchairs, because it's difficult to get around within timeframes and also with crowds on the same area as you. Those who are against broadly disagree with charging to use the walls and the fact that they are already contributing through their rates payments. There are families who, when a fee is introduced, are automatically not included. They're excluded from the event due to their personal circumstances. And I hope that we all acknowledge that for some families in our district and probably on your street and in your area, £10 is an awful lot of money. Another question posed to me was if concessions would be made for groups such as youth clubs or schools should this go ahead. The final question posed to me was what plans are there to incorporate the waterside area of Edmonton Square and St Colum's Park into the overall events. That's a slightly separate question, but still very important. Like, finally, to sum up, I would like to suggest that it may be a good idea to do further consultation due to the very mixed views of our constituents, the ratepayers, those who will be attending the events, and those who we may or may not be asking to contribute financially. At this time, I'm not content to support the report. I would, however, like to see how potentially the report or suggestions could be made better, but that is the position as it stands. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Middleton. A few questions there, and I know there was one previous with Councillor Farrell as well, so we'll just wait to the end because I think it will be a wee bit quicker if we do it that way, so to go back and forth. Is that right? No, we'll wait to the end. We'll wait to the end. Probably because I know there's going to be quite a few. So next we have Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Chair, and I thanks to the officers for putting together the report. And look, I think in this chamber and in the Guildhall, we have thanked council officers and all the organisations that have been involved in putting together an amazing Halloween festival here in Derry. And it's a good thing that it is attracting global attention, and it's a good thing that so many people love it here in Derry. And I think that the report talks about 2026 being the 40th anniversary of the festival, and it talks about kind of the community spirit, and that is what has driven this festival forward. It is still at the heart of this festival, and without that community spirit, we wouldn't have a Halloween festival like we have in Derry right now. So I'm very sympathetic to many of the things that council officers are challenged to try and figure out, because the queues at the walls, because it is such a great event, are a real issue. And it was frustrating for a lot of people to have to wait there. So this is not going to be easy to figure out. And I think that more funding is obviously needed. There is almost $500,000 in funding for this already. So adding to that, it will make it an even more significant contribution. So I don't think that there's any confusion. I think what's clear is that there is a proposal to make part of the Awakening of the Walls experience something that you have to pay for. £3 for an individual, £10 for a family of 4. And for some families and some individuals, that's not a lot of money. But for many others, it actually is. Karen Mullen is in today's Derry Journal from the Foyle Network Foundation talking about the fact that we don't have a hunger crisis in Derry, we have an income crisis. Now, it might feel to some like we've moved out of the cost of living crisis, but the reality is that we haven't, because rents are going up 10% every year. And that is really reducing the disposable income for a lot of families. And we are already in the northwest, the council area with the lowest disposable income. So any kind of fees and charges for our residents has a big impact, maybe disproportionate from other areas. So I think that this will be exclusionary. It will feel exclusionary to a lot of people, even if there's other things to go and see, something that you have accessed for free, something that you, by attending it, has actually made the event the successful event that it is, because it takes crowds to actually show that it's working. And it will feel like, as it says, an enhanced experience if you pay, and therefore, the rest of the experience won't be as good. So I think it is already generating, yes, questions, but also anger. I think I've experienced a lot of people frustrated about this because people feel they already pay for Halloween through their rates. And this is not the people who primarily benefit from Halloween. The vast majority of families that go to it are not making profits off of the success of Halloween, but they will be asked to pay for a portion of it. So I think that this is, for me, and the minute I heard about this, I didn't support it. I think it's a bad idea. I think it sets a bad precedent that you have to pay to go to something that you were all able to access for free. So I think that I don't support the commercialization of the Awakening of the Walls part of the Halloween. I think that there's probably other things that can be explored. So, for me, I would like to formally propose that we don't move forward with what's in 3.2, which is seeking that officers are allowed to seek to develop this out. I think that we have challenges and officers have challenges to figure out, but I think that we have to move forward without this proposal being part of it, because I think it will send, I think it will send the wrong message. Look, there is, I'm sure lots of visitors who come from all over the world, maybe different parts of Ireland, who come here and are able to afford flights, hotel bookings, who go out for meals, because when you're on holiday, that's what you do. Wouldn't mind paying additional things, wouldn't even notice it. But I'm thinking primarily about our council residents and the particular challenges that many of them face. So I think that it might not be something we can figure out this year, but that other cities like Barcelona and many places have actually started to institute what are called tourist taxes, where there's small fees added on to hotel bills for nightly stays. I've raised this, and I think others have raised this with council officers in the past. Might not be straightforward, but it might be something to kind of like think through and try to develop. And maybe there is obstacles to that, but I think it's something we can look at. And I just want to mention again, look, next year the proposal for a pay rise for our health and social care workers is 2.8%. I mean, that is not a real pay raise when inflation right now is 4%. So people are struggling with all sorts of things. I think we want to be in solidarity with our council, the majority of our council residents, and I think we want to enhance and improve the Halloween, but not with this fee proposal, because it will definitely be exclusionary. So, but I do want to propose that we formally vote on not supporting the 3.2 proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harkin. We have a proposal on the floor. Councillor Hart, are you looking to come on, or are you seconding the proposal? You're looking to come on. Do we have a seconder for the proposal? Seconded by Councillor. Oh, Councillor Barr just. There we go. So that's a proposal to scrap the 3.2 part of the paper. What was to explore the cost, the fees and all that stuff. They bring it back as a second paper. So, Councillor Hart.
I wanted to come in on 5.4, the additional 100,000, 70,000 in programming budget and the 30,000 in marketing. That's quite a substantial contribution increase from ratepayers, and as part of the rates discussion process, which is ongoing, I think that that should be included within that process, and that we don't make a decision here today on that. If that may need a proposal.
Is that a proposal you're making? It's going to.
So it is the case. Yeah.
Just repeat your proposal.
That it's part of the rates discussion process, you know, and that we take that into consideration because it is quite a hefty fee. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And do we have a seconder for your proposal?
So it's not a proposal.
Okay. Thank you. So back to your list of speakers. Councillor Hutton? No, not you. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong item. Gary, Councillor Donnelly.
Good Chair, and again, thanks for letting us in. First of all, I'd like to thank the officers for the work, tremendous work that they do. But I think it's also important, as it's been pointed out, you know, this has grown up from grassroots, from volunteers, from people giving their time free, from schools, from community groups. There's been thousands of people involved, and the vast majority of them have given their time and effort free to get this to where it's at now. And I'd be concerned that this sends out a wrong message. I think, you know, that there will be a backlash against this, and it could potentially be seen as a slippery slope, even if that's not what's intended here. You know, already I'm uncomfortable with some of council premises having been hired out, the different groups and that, who then put a charge on it. I understand that some of these groups do great work and they're trying to get some revenue. I'm not sure. I know that happened. I think it was 2 years ago. I'm not sure if that happens. Still continues to happen. But you know, they start charging for sections of the event that would be, in my opinion, just wrong. There was a conversation there that said, you know, maybe some of the money might go to pay artists. Which artists? What artists? There's thousands of people who take part in this, from young children in schools and that. And you know, I think that I'm not against it being ticketed if it's down to health and safety, but I do not think that there should be a charge. As Councillor Harkin pointed out, there is a lot of residents in you know, right throughout this city and district who just won't be able to afford that, and it will keep them away, because you know, there's nothing as bad as having a family and going to that you can't afford to pay the money to make them feel that they're part of it. It will exclude people, and I think this needs to be inclusive. And I do agree with I think it was Councillor Hutton about that there could potentially be, or sorry, Grace, I think it was, that there is equality issues here. And I think we need to be very, very careful. If there is to be some charges, then you know, it should be the big businesses who will generate a lot of income over this should in some way contribute. I'm not talking about small businesses that are struggling, but I think that for council, they put this, and it will be just working class people who will be out of pocket in this. And as I said, there will be the danger of a slippery slope. What next? Sort of ring side type seating for the view fireworks or whatever. We just need to be very, very careful. I'm not a member of the committee, so I can't propose or can't support the proposals, but at full council, I can't see that how I could support this. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly. Moving on, Alderman Hussey.
Thank you for the opportunity, Chair, and not a member of committee. As others have said, thanks to officers for what has happened in 24. And I can add to that for their support of events in my own area, in the Derg area. They're mentioned in 2.1, the Apple Fair and the Halloween Hula. And particularly with regard to the Apple Fair, as even you will know, the cooperation with the organisers of Apple Fair and officers was first class and enabled that to actually happen. So, I mean, that is part of the overall Halloween events. And indeed, the £335,000 in rates contribution comes from right across the district. Now, I hear people saying that they object to people having to pay for events relative to Halloween. I appreciate that. But hang on a minute. There are sections of our Halloween celebrations supported by this council where people do pay. They pay at the Halloween hoolie. They pay at the Apple Fair to utilise some of the attractions. So if this council is truly interested in equality, they would fund those events so that the electors of our area who go to those events, very successful events, community spirit, community organised events by people in the community, they would fund those events to a level that would enable them to offer those Halloween events free in their area, in the same way that our city councillors are asking for all of the events in the city to be free. So, I mean, let's be clear. All we're seeking is a level playing field. Now, if there is, I understand the crowd control that would be necessary, given the limited capacity and indeed perhaps even dangers of having too many people on the walls at a certain time. But let's have it equal across the board. If the council determines that this event will be free, it will be ticketed in some form. And I noticed there, I think there's a considerable amount involved in actually cost of arranging the ticketing. So where does the income come from to cover that? But if that's the case, and that is the method of controlling numbers on the walls, let's have all of our Halloween events that are supported by this council, free to all of those who enjoy those events. Keep that in mind going forward. A bit of equality for all throughout our council area. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Alderman. Can we move on to Councillor Farrell, sorry?
Thanks, Chair. Just briefly on Councillor Horgan's proposal. We obviously support the first aspect of the proposal. In terms of the second aspect, we are open to having conversations or exploring some sort of ticketing system to improve or reduce congestion or eliminate congestion, improve safety. We're against a cost attached to attendees in terms of a ticket. So I don't know if we should be throwing out the second limb of that proposal completely. We think more needs to be done to improve the efficiency of getting people on and off the walls. We're against charging. So I don't think we should be just saying we don't explore ticketing whatsoever. I think it is something that can be explored, but as I said when I spoke initially, for far too long, Chair, we will not support a cost attached to that to the ratepayer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Farrell. Councillor Horgan, when I come back on that, go ahead.
Yeah, just in response to Councillor Farrell, look, my proposal in terms of 3.2 only refers to the proposal around introducing a fee. So I think that, exploring the idea of ticketing or other possible solutions to the large crowds that attend the Awakening in the Walls, I think we should ask officers to do that. And if people have ideas, I think that they should submit those ideas as well to officers if we can assist in that. Thank you, Chair.
So that was just removing the fee part of 3.2, not the exploring the ticketing and other options as well. Folks, there's no more indicated speakers on that. So, Aileen, do you want to come on this with a few questions?
Thank you.
Go ahead, Alderman.
Thanks, Chair. Has there been any recorded numbers about how many people were actually on the walls last year? And have we ever charged before for anything, even when that thing was in Guildhall? No.
Okay, so thank you, Chair, and thank you, members, for your comments. I'll see if I can answer the questions. I know Councillor Farrell asked a couple of questions around the finances. I mean, we continue to look for sponsorship. We have a number of ongoing discussions. As you know, we've had some success with sponsors over the year, but yes, I would agree there is an opportunity for a major sponsor, and we continue to have those discussions with potential sponsors. It's not without its challenges. Sponsors require a lot of management, and they, finding the right sponsor and the right fit is not that straightforward, but we do continue those discussions. Indeed, I know there are a number ongoing this week. In regards to the income, primarily it's from the income there is from traders and some other things. We're happy to get a full breakdown, but the majority is around traders. And I think Councillor Farrell also asked a question around accessible space. We know there is always demand for accessible space, and it is something that we continually work. We have an access and inclusion officer that works within the culture department who works very closely with all our events on this, and we continue to monitor it. But happy to take if there's any specific queries or any specific concerns, happy to look at it. But I mean, we obviously would like to provide as much accessible space as possible. Alderman Middleton, I think, had a question around St. Colm's Park at Ebrington. I mean, it's indicated there in the budget, the executive office, the contribution of the executive office, that's primarily for activity at Ebrington, and we do expect that to continue. We just are working with them on what the detail of that will be, and we expect that to be the subject of future reports. But most definitely that activity will continue in 2025. I suppose the point Alderman Middleton made around time slots, that is primarily the reason why you would introduce ticketing, whether it's paid ticketing or non-paid ticketing, but it does allow you to time slot access onto the walls, and that's primarily what allows you to manage the crowds and manage the proper experience on the actual walls themselves. It is a challenge. There's no doubt. I hear loud and clear your comments around charging, but I do think it is important to note it will be extremely difficult for us to maintain not so much activity on the walls, but allow people access to the walls without some sort of ticket. And without having time slots or restricting access and managing access in some way. And the only way that I suppose that there are access points at various places in the walls, but to do that and allow one of the beauties of the experience is that it is very interactive with the performers. That's why people love it. You get to stand right up close to performers and all sorts of stuff. So just to note that that's going to be difficult without some sort of ticket. But we're happy to take that away and look at that, taking your comments on board that you don't want to see a paid experience for the walls. And I should say the caveat in all of this, just to remind you that all of these discussions, while we're asking for your permission for our event and the proposals for it, it is subject to discussions with the partners, particularly the Historic Environment Division, who look after the walls. So I'm sure they're keeping a close eye on this, and we'll relay your comments to them in our discussions with them about how we, irrespective of whether we charge or not, we will still be working closely with them to develop the experience and the event for this year. I don't think there was any, unless there's something specific in regards to the questions that I've missed. That's probably everything. If I've missed something, put your hand up now. I don't have those figures exactly, but I know we have them because there are counters on the walls, so that we do extract that data, yeah, and that's what informs our plans for crowd management. I just don't have the exact figures with me, but I can send them to you, and we do absolutely have them because there are counters right throughout the walls.
Okay, I think we're ready to move on there from that. So just for clarity, is that the papers approved minus the 3.2 element of exploring a fee for these tickets, but the tickets idea and maybe alternative still remains? So the paper's okay, just minus the fee.
What about in relation to the additional 100,000? So it's not for a decision? So not here today? Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I think we've had clarity on that, just removing the fee element of 3.2, okay? And the papers, can we have for the paper, does that still need a proposer and seconder then? So minus the fee, of course. Can someone propose and second the paper minus that? Nobody.
Chair, I'm happy to propose, but it sounded like Councillor Harkin already proposed it earlier.
Sorry, well, I thought if there's no need to have it, sorry, Chair, through you, if everybody is happy with removing the fee proposal, part of 3.2, because it wasn't clear to me everybody was going to vote to do that, but if everybody is, that's great. So we can agree now that that's been taken out. I'm happy to propose the paper.
Yeah, your proposal was supported by majority anyway. So, but it was just, did you get the clarity there? Just Stephen wanted the clarity on, but yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
It was just to make sure that everybody was happy with the proposal that was made by Councillor Harkin first.
I don't think there was any dissenting voices on removing the fee part of it anyway, by nobody in the chamber. Yeah, so yeah, that's it. Happy enough? Okay, moving on to item number 10. Item number 10 is the cultural grant aid results, and that is 18.
So thank you, Chair. Members, the purpose of this report is to approve your allocation of funding for the cultural grant aid programmes. These include cultural organisations, Heritage Animation Access Programme for cultural organisations, headline events, community festivals, and the Artist and Culture Practitioner Award for the coming year. Members, you will be aware we brought reports to this committee securing the approval of the rollout of these programmes. The funds were extensively promoted with online sessions, information sessions regarding the funds. You'll be well aware, it's listed there in the report, what the purpose of each of the funds. Just some points to note in relation to them. The Cultural Organisations Fund is currently entering the second year of its 3-year cycle. The total value of eligible arts organisations is listed in the report of just over £207,500 per annum against an available grant aid budget of 192,000. The budget for the other for the Heritage Animation is set out in the report. Just to note, 14,000 of the Heritage Animation goes to meet eligible costs of heritage organisations applying into Cultural Organisation Fund, which leaves a balance of 69,600 to support the applications to the Heritage and Visitor Servicing Fund. There were 6 applications this year, and a summary is set out in Appendix 2. Capital-based access programme was 72,600 received from 3 organisations. It's also the subject of a parallel report to this committee for information. A summary of the applicants is outlined. Members, you'll know that from 2024, you're informed of the limited estimated resources for the access programme. And as a result of this, successful applications will be issued with a letter of offer in principle, subject to council subsequently securing funding from the Department for Communities. In previous years, we would have sought external support from the DFC Access Inclusion Programme. Members should note that DFC had confirmed there's no budget available to allocate to the Access Programme for 24-25, and they've not confirmed if there will be a budget allocated for this programme in 25 and 26. The total value of eligible applications for Headline was 330,000, with no sporting applications and 11 eligible applications. With an existing budget of 205,000, of the 11, 9 would receive funding, and one of these only partly. The summary obviously is in Appendix 1 of the report. Just to note, we've had one application has been received for the National Events Fund, which is an allocation of 35,000, and a separate application for this has been submitted, and it'll be the subject of a specific report to this committee next month, which officers are working on. And you'll note in the outworkings of that, depending on the result of that, that will free up some budget to allow further events to be funded under Headline events. Community festivals, the total value of eligible applications is set out in the report there of 267,361. There was a significant increase in the number of applications made to Community Festivals Fund this time round. There were 21 to the upper fund, with 1 not meeting the threshold, and 12 to the lower fund, all meeting the threshold score. Officers recommend, to ensure a wider spread of the budget, that members agree to award funding on a pro rata basis that would ensure more applicants get some funding. With the existing council budget of 92,400, this would mean that all 12 applicants in the lower would be funded, and 7 would receive funding in the upper level, and 1 part funding. Summary again is set out in 4 and 5. Again, as usual, we await confirmation from the Department for Communities regarding their financial contribution, which if is in line with previous years is 29,700, and would see a further 3 events being funded. And it's you need to note that there are several worthy events that have met the threshold, but with existing budget remain unfunded. 2 events such as this in Headline, and up to 11 in the upper level of Community Festival. If additional cost savings can be found, or there are withdrawals from the council process, officers would recommend this funding be allocated to those remaining funds based on the scores. Members, you'll recall you agreed in 2023 to ensure the distribution of funding for Christmas events was equitable. That grant aid budget that had previously been allocated to the neighbourhood renewal groups, and funding that also was previously made available to 3 towns from the former Strabane District Council area would be via competitive process. 10 applications were received, 1 was ineligible. 9 of the events are to be awarded funding, and although members asked for 1 from each DEA to be prioritised, this wasn't necessary on this occasion, as there was enough funding in the allocated 24,000. And members, you should note this award would receive the full amount asked for if eligible, as the maximum pot is up to 3,000. Again, there's a summary of that in Appendix 6. The Artists and Cultural Practitioner Award results, there's 29 applicants. Based on the allocated budget of 16,000, this would mean an award made to the top 14 applicants. The next 3 listed in order score 74, and to award those would require a total of 16,550. A further 2 artists on the list met the defined threshold criteria. To extend those would require a total of 18,550. And again, a summary of those outlined in Appendix 7. Members, you will recall some queries last year, just to note that these applications are all assessed by a trained panel of officers. Trained panels. The outcome of the process was discussed with the culture members working group, who've been taken through the results and process in detail. And you'll aware, members, this was scheduled for the 8th of January to allow for the awards to be made in good time. Members, you're asked to approve in this report the process and the overall awards. And as we've told you before, any member is welcome to see any aspect of the process or related paperwork at any time. Members, the grant is drawn from your approved budget, and you're asked today to approve the proposed award allocation outlined in the report for Heritage Animation, for the Access Programme, for Headline events, for Community Festivals, and for Artists and Cultural Practitioner Awards. And again, summary of all the results is set out in the appendices. And while we redact this information at this stage, you're asked to approve the process. As you know, members, I'm happy to talk to you in detail outside of the committee about any particular application or the results themselves. Once this is approved at the end of the month, hopefully we will be writing to all the successful and non-successful applicants, and we'll be giving them feedback as in previous years. So happy to take any questions.
Thank you for the report, Aileen. First speaker, Councillor McHugh.
Hello, Carla, and thanks as well for the report. You're quite right. This has become a more and more competitive process every year. And the funding going out to all these events is crucial for running these events in the communities and right across the district. Some of the groups are probably able to absorb not being able or not being funded on this occasion, but there are groups out there who rely on this funding and wouldn't be able to continue their event without this funding. And I would ask, and I would welcome what Aidan has said there in her report, that the council, the measures they're going to put in place to try and ensure that those, particularly those groups that have met the threshold but haven't received any funding, will award or will be awarded funding to allow these events to go ahead. I can think of one particular group who run an event annually in the city in Derry. And it's an event that is attended by subgroups right across the city and district who, for them, if they don't receive funding, they wouldn't be able to run that event. So I would ask that officers pursue that with all the groups to try and ensure that they do receive some funding, if not all funding. But I welcome the report, and I'm happy to propose the process. I welcome the process, and I think it's entirely an appropriate process for this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McHugh. Councillor Farrell.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thanks, Aileen, for the report. Happy to second the recommendations on behalf of the SDLP. I think we can all see that supporting our arts and culture scene right across the city and district, and the festivals, the events, the individual practitioners is a key focus for this council. We have a particular concern around the upper level community festivals fund. 21 applications, total value of applications was over £200,000, and we had a budget of 55 grand. So out of the 21, we can only fund 7 of those. I've had a look at the stats. There were 7 unsuccessful applications for that particular fund that scored over 70%. So that shows that there was a high volume of high quality applications, and if these events aren't funded, they're not going to happen, and the people right across the city and district are going to miss out. I know Aileen has alluded to it in the paper, but I think we need there needs to be engagement between officers and B&C and colleagues in the finance department to understand if in-year savings can be identified specifically for the upper level community festivals fund, just to ensure that as many worthy applications can be funded. This isn't a rates ask. I'm not being prescriptive about a value on this. I'm not saying 10 grand, 20 grand, 30 grand. It's just what's affordable. So I would propose that that happens as a matter of urgency, and if that can happen and bring it back to further paper, possibly full council, I'm not sure. But long story short, there's a lot of very, very worthy applications that have been submitted. We don't have the money. There wasn't the money in the budget. There may be slippage money in your savings that could be reallocated towards that fund. So I would ask that officers within the directorate engage with colleagues in finance to understand if those can be supported. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Farrell. You have a proposal there. Can I have a seconder for a proposal, Councillor? Okay, sorry, Councillor Mooney, just seeing your
Yeah, I've just
chat there.
that, Chair. Thank you. I've seconded that proposal.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Moving on, our next speaker is Councillor Hargan.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in, and thank you to Aideen for the report. And just to acknowledge, I know that a tremendous amount of work goes into this. It's a very important set of applications because it is about doing what we can as a council to support our arts and culture sector, who we know are extremely talented, extremely ambitious, and need our support. That includes the festivals, the high level events, and the individual artists as well. The one thing that's become clear is that the level of demand has went up, and I think that this is in part because of reduced funding from elsewhere for many of the organisations and individuals that are looking to access support. That comes from cuts from Stormont, and once again, our council is being asked to step up and do everything we can to make sure organisations get the support that they need to continue on with the great work that they do, because these are events that allow our city and council district to thrive. It allows communities to thrive, and it allows individual artists to basically develop their talents. So this is a key fund for us, but we need more support as well from Stormont to actually allow this to happen, and we are pushing as a council and doing what we can to pressure the DFC to address some of these issues. So 3.7 in the report is outlines that that there are some organisations that did very well in the scoring process, as Aideen said and others have said. 2 events in the headline fund and 11 events in the upper level of the community festival fund, and that we should seek additional cost savings. So I think officers already are acknowledging that there's very good events there that didn't get funding, and I think we have to do everything we can as a council to make sure that we seek out of savings or other pots of money a way to make sure that they get funded. I think that some of the events, if they don't happen, would be an unimaginable loss for the city and district, and actually for the Northwest and for Ireland. So there is an urgency in trying to address this. I think that council officers are very aware of, and I think that that's becoming clear from a number of contributions today. And if we could do something in that regard for the full council meeting, I think that I'm guessing, I'm assuming that it'll get support across the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. My apologies, Alderman Guy, you were up next.
Just to declare an interest. I think everybody knows what it is. I'm not going to go any further than that because obviously some names on it.
Yeah, no problem. It'll be noted. No more indicated speakers. Alderman Hussey.
Thanks for the opportunity. And it's really just to amplify my previous comments and seek clarification. Of the 400, I'm sorry to go back, but it is part of this as well. The 470,000 which went to Halloween, is it fair to say that some of the peripheral events that I have referred to earlier on are contained within the report that is in front of us and represent maybe 1-2% of the budget that would have been allocated to Halloween for the city? Is that a fair comment?
They're not included in the amount for, no, they're not, they're separate, they're funded. Some of those elements of some of those are funded under the grant aid.
Yeah, but the couple that I referred to, none of those actually receive funding from the Halloween budget that we were looking at earlier on. Is that correct? Thank you. That amplifies what I'm
Vast
saying.
majority. You know,
Sure, thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 11 is the attendance of the Future High Streets Future Challenge Summit. And that Stephen's going to take us through that.
Right. Thank you, Chair. Let's just bring members' attention to an invite that's come in to Future High Streets Future Challenges Summit. Some elected members have expressed an interest in attending this. It is in Belfast on the 25th of February, 9:30 to 1 o'clock. The costs associated with that are covered under the members' training and conference budget. And if any members wish to attend, they're just to make it known through either ourselves at the Business Culture or through member services, and we can arrange for your name to be added to the list.
Councillor Farrell, are you looking to come on that?
Thanks very much for giving me permission to speak. But no, I just want to support the recommendation on our behalf. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Councillor Farrell. Councillor Farrell.
Thanks, Chair, again, and thanks, Stephen, for the update. Obviously, we support the recommendation. We understand the challenges that high streets across our city and district are changing, are facing, and we understand the nature of the economy and people's sort of purchasing habits have changed dramatically over the years, and that leaves challenges for our high streets and for the future of our high streets. And I think it's important that we have representatives at this summit to feed into that process, to learn, and there's some really, really interesting speakers. But I want to raise an issue. There was a high street task force which was formed by the Executive Office. In 2021, they had a number of sort of open consultations, one particularly that I attended in the Millennium Forum. There was a call for evidence. They produced a report in 2022, which had a suite of recommendations about how high streets across the north are revitalised. Absolutely nothing has happened with this since. I've had a look on the Executive Office website, and they're saying that they're currently considering how the recommendations within this report can align with the programme for government. So reading between the lines, sitting on a desk in Stormont, nobody's done anything about it. So a question to Stephen on that: would you have any further detail on, the genesis of this summit? Is it linked to the High Street Task Force, or is it something completely separate? Thank you.
Councillor Farrell, I'm not aware that it's linked to the original report from the Assembly. This has come in as an opportunity, but I can certainly go and find out. I mean, the sponsors would indicate Retail and I are leading it with a number of other co-sponsors. So, but I can certainly find out and come back to our elected members know.
Okay, no more indicated speakers on item 11. So items 12 to item 19 are open for information. If anybody has a dying interest to come on them, I'll go through them quickly here. Item 12 is investment service update. I don't see no indicated speaker. Delivery of multiple skills initiative. I don't see anybody. Number 14, labour market partnership, LMP update. Nobody. Item 15, access and inclusion funding update. Nobody. Number 16. Number 17. Councillor Hussey.
Thank you, Chair. Just for clarification, essentially the organisation relative to the International Appalachian Trail is being put to bed, and council are just taking on the maintenance of the trail at going forward in our section. Is that correct?
Yeah, so primarily the governance related to the project is being put to bed, yeah, and council officers are going to maintain the discussions around the maintenance and ongoing development of the IAT and other walking routes as well, and will update members as in under normal business in committee.
It's just personally, I feel that there's an opportunity being missed here for interaction and engagement, particularly on the Atlantic, or the other side of the Atlantic, in North America with regard to this. Even more so, I suppose, with the incoming Vice President Vance, declaring, his Ulster Scots, Irish roots, etc. And I feel that we could miss out on an opportunity, but what we're doing is maintaining the trail, as I understand at present, and that's it.
And there's no reason why we can't do any engagement internationally or do anything in relating to the route. And we do, we have structures, and we're working across all the other councils on other issues, so we can bring anything into that group. It's just the I suppose the structure that was developed to run the project essentially, and it was a fairly hefty RDP and capital project there that required significant governance. Is probably not required anymore, but there's no reason we're not stopping activity on it by any stretch of the imagination, and if there are opportunities, we'll be happy to explore them.
Appreciate that, Chair. Thank you.
No problem. Item 18 is the marketing procurement update. Anybody? No indicated speakers. And finally, item 19 is the screen update. Anybody wants to come on that? No, our next items are confidential, so just waiting for the indication from our tech